Hello and welcome back to Crafted by Corie. If you're new, I'm Corie. Welcome to my channel. If you are returning, thank you as always for being here. I appreciate you more than I can say. Super excited. I'm about 11 hours early, but we are kicking off Christmas in July. I love Christmas crafting, so let's go ahead and get right on into the projects.
DIY number one. Okay, I have this vase from the Dollar Tree and these napkins that I had picked up at the local grocery store last Christmas, actually. I cleaned out the vase because it's been sitting on my shelf. I just used some rubbing alcohol and a microfiber wipe or a scrap of it. And now I'm laying out my napkins, and I think these gnomes are super cute. I am going to peel away the second ply of the napkins and just get these ready to go, because when using what is that, Mod Podge, which is what I'm going to be using, you only want to use a single ply. So now I'm going to grab the gnomes that I want to use, or the part, excuse me, of the design that I want to use for this, and I'm using a water brush. It's also from the Dollar Tree, and it just holds water, and it's like a paintbrush. So I'm just brushing, and you can use a regular paintbrush with just water, but I outlined the area of the gnomes that I wanted to use so that it would make it easier to tear away. So as you can see there, it just really pulled right away from the area that I had marked off with the water, for lack of a better term. And then I went ahead and did the same thing with my other little guy. Now, normally I do this because when my little thing is rolling all over, when I Mod Podge, it helps to make the edges a little bit more subtle, right? And now I just showed you my Mod Podge. Now I had gone ahead and set one of these little guys in here, and I'm trying to go over the top of the napkin, so to speak, with the Mod Podge, and I was hoping it was going to be able to penetrate the napkin properly. And the reason I had opted to try to do this is to try to mitigate the amount of wrinkles that I was going to have. However, I found that it just was not going through the napkin the way that I needed it to get it to adhere properly to the glass. So I ended up kind of adding some, you can see it pulling up there. You want to be careful. So there you go. I added some Mod Podge underneath, and then swept it back down again. You just want to be real careful because the napkin will tear if you go over it too many times. I did have a couple of spots where I had some breakage of the napkin. I think I'd probably have to point them out for you to see them, but I know they're there and it bothers me. So I would just keep in mind you want to be gentle. Now, I was starting to say that usually I use the paintbrush with water to help soften the edges. I don't normally cut my designs out because it makes it kind of a sharp line. So when using Mod Podge, I normally do it that way. That being said, for this particular project, if I had to do it over it again, and you can see I put down the Mod Podge on the glass first, and then I put the second little guy in there. So you can see why I kind of learn as I go with this stuff, and hopefully you pick up some tricks and learn some things from what I'm doing as well. Excuse me. Okay, I'm like all over the place here, you guys. All right, so the edges. For this, if I had to do it over again, I probably would have cut it out with scissors. And the reason I'm saying that is because the background for these little guys was a soft gray color. It was not white. And so when I end up finishing this off in a little bit, and right now I'm just covering the entire inside with the Mod Podge just for consistency and just making sure all my edges are sealed. But I feel like had I cut them and made an actual sharp line around it, it might have actually looked better for this particular project. So I've got my Adirondack white chalk paint. I was showing you that the Mod Podge is completely dry right now, and I am just going to coat the entire inside of this with the white. Now, you don't have to do that. But my little guys, especially their beards and things, were translucent. So I figured it would help to make them stand out a little bit more. Now, I also thought about putting a candle in this. And so if you're going to do a candle, you might not want to paint it white because I don't know that it'll actually glow the same way and shine through. I did not honestly attempt it with a candle at this point because I kind of figured that the paint was going to remove the possibility of that happening. I'll have to test that out. But you can see how at those edges, I don't know. My sister saw this and said she thought it was adorable. I look at it and I see all of the things that I would do differently. So I would love to get your thoughts on this piece and what you might have done differently. I mean, they're still super cute. They're gnomes. What can I say? But leave me a comment and let me know your thoughts on this piece. DIY number 2. Okay, this is a piece wood cut out from the Dollar Tree as well. And I have my ocean chalk paint and my Adirondack white chalk paint. I'm going to grab out a baby wipe, and that's what I'm going to be using to apply these. So using that blue, I'm going to go all the way across. I'm just sweeping it across the surface of the project. I'm not getting down into the sides or onto the sides. I mean, just by virtue of paint being what it is, there is some kind of seeping down onto the sides, but I'm trying to avoid getting globs, and I will be taking care of the sides and the back in a little bit. But I am working my way down about halfway across the piece, and then I'm going to grab another baby wipe, and I'm going to be using my Adirondack white on the bottom half. And I'm going to be creating an ombre effect here. Now, I did this technique that I pretty much just made up myself. If somebody else has done it, I'm sure other people have done it, but I've not seen it. I just kind of did it on my own. But I'm going to continue to sweep across and just kind of blend that as I go up. But someone recently, when I was using this technique on another project recently, was asking if they might be able to use makeup sponges. And I think you probably could if you don't have baby wipes in your stash. If you use makeup sponges and just get them wet and squeeze them out and then use the paint, I think that probably should work. If you have strong paper towels also that hold up to water, you might be able to use paper towel. I don't know that for certain. You might get fibers in there, so that might not be a great idea, but or if you have like a washcloth might work. If you have an old washcloth or an old rag that you don't mind getting paint on, that would actually probably work really well as well. But as you can see, I am just going over it back and forth with the different colors until I get the ombre effect that I'm looking for. And if I get a little bit too much paint somewhere, I just go back over it with the other. And I want to apologize if you are hearing background noise. I am actually on vacation somewhere and in a hotel room trying to do my voiceover. And so I have little control over the noise around me. So I'm so sorry if you can hear that in the background. But once it was all dry to the touch, I flipped it over and I decided I had been debating the white or the blue for the back and then the sides, and I ultimately decided on the blue. So I'm doing the sides, well, obviously the sides and the back. Now, because it was face down on the table like this, I thought the front might be sufficiently protected. Unfortunately, I did get a little bit of bleeding here and there, so I ended up going back in and having to touch it up, and I'll show you that in a minute. So just be aware that there is still the potential for bleeding. If I had to do it over again, I probably wouldn't have done it the edges while it was face down like that. I probably would have lifted it up and tried to just very gently do the inner edges. So I'm just folding this in case there's wet paint. I don't want to get wet paint on, any place that it might not be desired. So abundance of caution. And I'm using now just a plain, wet, clean baby wipe to try to wipe away some of that paint that's on there before it completely dries. So that's basically what I'm doing here. There were a couple of spots where I felt like I needed to touch it up a little bit, so I did come back in with some white paint or with some of the blue as needed, but it was pretty good for the most part, and the clean baby wipe cleaned up most of it. So now I've got my little star that I've pulled out of my stash. This was part of a package from the Dollar Tree with a bunch of little wooden cutouts in all different shapes. I have my I want to say shiny. It's my gloss Mod Podge that I am applying to the star. And then I've got my gold glitter that I had shown you just a minute ago that I'm going to go ahead and pour over the star. So I'm just going to be real generous here so that it all sticks into the Mod Podge. Notice I am doing that on my parchment paper so that I can put the excess back into the container. So once I had it sit on the star for just a minute, I'm going to go ahead and pull my star out. I'm trying to be gentle with it because it is still wet. So I'm setting that aside. And I'm just going to go ahead and pour my glitter back into the container. Now you can certainly wait until it's dry. I was trying to keep working because I was trying to get my crafts done before I left on my vacation. So I'm still editing the video, but that's okay. I got the crafts done. So there is my star with hot glue. Let me know what you think. DIY number 3. Okay, this is a paper plate, or actually a set of paper plates that I picked up at my local grocery store. I got them at the same time as the napkins. They do match. So now I'm going to have like a little matching set of decor, but I'm going to grab out one of these plates and I am going to trim off the outer edge that I don't necessarily need for the project. So my goal is going to be to get this as flat as I possibly can. So in order to do that, I want to remove that part that's super curvy. I could have cut off more, but you can see my little gnome head, his hat at the top there is up on the curved part. So I'm trying to figure out how to lay this flat. It is kind of gathered is not the right word. You can tell that it was a flat piece that was run through a machine and made curved. So there are pleats, there you go. There are kind of pleats in it that I'm trying to get to lay flat. So I was using my hot heat gun, trying to massage it out, and it was working to some extent, and you probably could continue to do it that way and get it where you need it eventually, but I was starting to lose my patience, so I grabbed my Easy Press. Now you could also use an iron if you have an iron. You definitely want to use butcher paper or parchment paper, something to protect the surface and your iron or your Easy Press. But I went ahead and got that hooked up. I think I had it set to like 350 degrees. I honestly can't remember. It was whatever it was set at the last time I used it. And unfortunately, I wasn't able to see it on the video to see what it was actually set to. I believe it was 350, and I believe, oh, I almost saw it, but no. And I know it was set for 60 seconds because I thought, oh, I'll try that. And I ended up taking it off after about 30 seconds because I was starting to smell something like it might be singeing, and I did not want to burn it, right? So I picked that up, pulled it off. It did flatten it pretty well, and it's still hot, obviously, so I'm sticking it under my mat to try and cool it between the mat and my table because it wasn't going to do anything to my table. It wasn't that hot. But I got it sufficiently flat for what I was looking to do. So now I'm grabbing a piece of foam core board, and I'm going to get it arranged on here in such a way that I'm going to be able to use it as backing. I'm just scoring the foam core board right now with my utility knife. I didn't go all the way through it. I'm finding that is a really easy way, or easier way, for me to get a shape that I want, by just scoring the top part of it and then going back through the foam, and then if I need to go back through a third time to hit the paper on the opposite side. That just works really well for me. So now I am laying it out on the foam core board. I've got my regular Mod Podge. This is just matte Mod Podge, and I'm going over the entire back surface of my plate and making sure I'm going over the edges. I'm being careful not to get Mod Podge on the front of this. And then once I have this completely coated all the way out to the edges, I'm going to go ahead and apply it down to the foam core board. So plop it right on there and get it lined up. And then I decided I really needed something heavy to put on this until it was dry, because otherwise it was going to potentially curl up and away from the backing, and I didn't want that to happen. So I've got this board, I think that's MDF, and then my Mod Podge giant container is pretty heavy, and then I ended up putting my Easy Press on it too. So once it was dry, I went ahead and peeled that parchment paper away. I've got my self-healing mat, and I grabbed my X-Acto knife, and here I'm just going to score it again, because that's going to give me the most amount of control. So I'm just scoring it right along the edge of the plate. I'm basically tracing the plate with the X-Acto knife, and once I got through that first layer, I could, with control, then go down through the foam layer and through the bottom paper layer to get this completely cut out. So just take your time. Remember that I speed my videos up by about 2.5 times so as not to completely bore you through all of the process. So I am going much slower than it appears I'm going. So just be careful with those sharp knives. All right, now I have some of my Kirkland ribbon. Don't know if you noticed, but it's basically the same pattern that was on the outer edge of the plate to begin with. That outer edge that we cut off was a red and black buffalo check, and this is a red and black buffalo check ribbon. And I am just kind of rolling the end of it to hide the frayed edge, not frayed, but the cut edge. So if it does fray, it will be hidden. And then I was kind of gathering it. I don't know if you could tell. This is a wired ribbon. So you can do this with regular ribbon as well. If I were to use regular ribbon, instead of just kinking it the way that I am, I'm just kind of forcing it to gather, essentially, by leveraging the ribbon or the wire that's in there. With non-wired ribbon, I would take a needle and thread or a sewing machine and just run a not too tight stitch, so a relatively loose stitch down the length of it, and then I would tie a knot in the one end of the threads and then pull the threads and gather the ribbon up on the thread, and that will create a gather for you just like this. So I am just going to continue to gather it up. You probably saw that I was applying it with hot glue. So gathering, 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 and then I'm going to lift it up and put down some hot glue and then just press it down into the hot glue. So just a cute little holiday country design. This would be super cute. Just about anywhere. I was going to say in a little girl's room. I don't know if a little girl would like this in her room, but I don't know. Oh my gosh. But I think it's cute. So I left a couple of extra inches on the end there so that I can roll it just again to hide that raw edge. That was the term I was looking for before, the raw edge. And then I will go ahead and adhere that as well. And this is pretty much done except for the little hanger that we'll do in just a moment, but just making sure that the ends are overlapping so that you can't really see the seam, and that everything is nice and lined up. Sealing that down, and voila, there we go. I think these are super cute, these little guys. So now I'm going to grab some red cord that I have in my stash. I can't remember if that was from the Dollar Tree or if it was from somewhere else, but I just took maybe a 3-inch piece. I decided to make a knot in it to have like a little loop. Not necessary. I don't know why I felt the need to put a knot in it. But at any rate, I am gluing down my loop. I was just making a mess of it. I should have let it just cool. I was trying to push it back down into the glue, and oh goodness, just applied some more glue, let it cool, and once it was cool, I cut off that little end, and this is it. And now it's time for a shout out timeout. Cute Kathy. You know what? I am so excited, looking forward to fall. I love pumpkins. And great Grammy Sagmo, this is her coffee bar. Doesn't it look amazing? And Pretty Rose, I absolutely love her welcome signs. Thank you so much for sharing. I would love to give you a shout out as well. If you have interest, just send me an email at craftedbycorie@gmail.com. DIY number 4. Okay, this is from a project I did, I don't remember when. It was one Christmas, or maybe a Christmas in July, but I decided I was going to do something else with it. So I had pulled off the beads and just set those aside. This is a scarf from the Dollar Tree, and I'm just trying to figure out how to wrap it around here. I'd seen something online that inspired me to do this. I'm not sure that mine was as successful as what I saw online, and I actually, in the process of editing this video, decided that there was a better way that I could have created this same type of piece, and so I might have to revisit this in another video and show you my idea to do this a different way. But I figured out how much of the scarf material I was going to need. I'm just going to go ahead and cut that down. And that tree piece, by the way, was just a styrofoam cone from the Dollar Tree as well that I had painted green. That's all that is, with a skewer stuck in the bottom of it. So I'm going to go ahead and try and get this applied. At first, I was thinking Mod Podge. Okay, yeah. Now I thought I had glitter on this, so I've got my little my little ladybug vacuum cleaner. I was trying to suck up the glitter, and I realized that it's actually in the scarf. I just had the scarf inside out when I was first working with it. So anyway, I had been thinking about Mod Podge on this, and then I wasn't sure that I was going to be able to get it to apply the way I wanted it. So I ultimately ended up going with hot glue. Not sure that that was the best decision, because it does create, you know, an interesting seam at the back. But you know what? It worked, and like I said, I could find a different way to do this project. Actually, not even with a styrofoam cone. So stay tuned, and hopefully I will show you my new idea for this look with the scarf, because I will make another one with a scarf when I get to back to my craft room, and can show you my other way of doing it. But in the meantime, I'm just continuing to apply the hot glue. I am not applying it all over the cone. I am only applying it along the back seam. So I continue to stretch it, make sure that it's nice and smooth across the front of my cone, and then I'm kind of tucking in pieces of the fabric. I'm cutting some of the fabric away where I have just too much excess. This is a very thin fabric. So here you see I'm cutting some of it away, because I don't want it to look bulky and bulgy. Hopefully I'm making sense. So I'm trying to get it as smooth and as flat as I possibly can, while still ensuring that I'm covering up the entire piece. I don't want any of that green showing. So just taking my time. Ooh, got a little hot there. Taking my time, making sure that it's all folded in properly without making it look bulky, and gluing it down as I go. So once I got it all completely covered, I am finishing it off by tucking in that raw edge. And I'm going to try and seal it down. Well, not try, I did seal it down with the hot glue with that edge tucked under. And that also helped to camouflage that there was hot glue being used because it didn't seep all the way through the second layer of the scarf. When I was applying just the single layer, as I was starting the project, you could see the hot glue seeping up through, and it wasn't real pretty. So I was happy to see that when I had it folded over, it was grabbing enough of the fabric. It was going through enough in the fabric to grab it and secure it, but it wasn't showing through that second layer of fabric with it being folded over like that. So that was great. So now I've got that all sealed in. I always use my knife because it's cool and I don't know. But now I'm looking for that hole that I originally had with that skewer. I'm putting the same skewer back in there. It was a little bit longer than what I wanted, so you'll see me shortening that in a minute. But right now I'm grabbing that gem that was on the original piece. I wanted to see if that was going to work for this. Here, I'm going to go ahead and try and shorten it by pressing it further down into the tree. I could only get it so far, so then I ended up trimming it actually with my scissors. So you will see that in just a moment. But first, I've got these little stars. I decided that gem was just too small for the size tree that I was working with for this particular style. Trimmed off the little piece of the skewer. I'm going to use that to attach my star. I'm cutting the base of the skewer at, I'm kind of sharpening it like you would a pencil if you were to use a pair of scissors to sharpen a pencil. Yeah, I know. Yeah. But it wasn't quite sharp enough to go through, so I'm grabbing a skewer out of my stash that still has the pointy end on it, and used that to pierce it, and now I'm good to go. So now I need a base for my little tree. And what I ended up doing is grabbing some of that foam core board that was left over, and I'm just going to use my scissors for this. Now, I don't normally cut foam core board with scissors because when you're working with a larger piece of it, it actually will damage the foam core board, so I don't recommend using scissors on foam core. But for this and what I was looking to do here, it was perfectly fine with these little pieces. So I've got 3 of them that I've cut to the same size and shape, and I'm just going to sandwich them with hot glue. I am not putting hot glue in the middle of these little pieces. I'm keeping it to the outer edges because I want to be able to put my skewer through the middle of this. And if I put hot glue in the middle of it, it will block the skewer. The skewer will not be strong enough to go through the hot glue. Okay, so you want to just keep that in mind if you do it this way. There is a method to my madness most days, but I'm going to go ahead and stick it down into the little base, and now it's going to be able to hold my tree up. And once I have that all nice and secure, I'm going to grab my black chalk paint and I'm going to paint the base black. So I'm also going to be painting the little skewer tree trunk, so to speak. But before I do that, I'll pull it a little ways out of the tree so that I can paint it without getting paint on the fabric. And then I can just slide it right back in again when I'm done painting it, right? There was something in my paint. I don't know what it was. Might have been a piece of hot glue or dried paint or something, but that was why I was kind of smashing my brush on the table. But I'm just going to completely cover this with the black, as you see. And here I'm pulling that skewer out so I can catch the little trunk, and then I'll be able to slide it back in again in just a minute. So, and that way my fabric is protected and I can have my trunk completely coated in paint. So there, slide it right back down. Okay, and now I have some Dollar Tree ribbon, and it just is red with some snowflakes on it, and so I thought it was a really good match for the fabric that I had used for my tree, using a little bit of hot glue. applying my ribbon, and I'm just going to wrap this around the base. So this is going to kind of camouflage the sides of the foam core board that I have sandwiched together and make it a little bit more cohesive. It doesn't look bad without it. I mean, if you don't look too close, it could look like little pieces of wood stacked together. Maybe it gives it a little bit more charm. Maybe distress it with white paint. But for me, I opted to just wrap it with this ribbon for a nice finished look. So once I get it all wrapped around, I'll trim it off a little bit long because I will tuck my edge in. So I'm going to fold that end over, and I'm going to put a little dab of hot glue there to secure the fold or the crease, whatever you want to call that. And then I'll apply it down and secure it for a finished piece. And that is it for this one. You'll have to let me know what you think. And like I said, stay tuned for my other idea of how to do this project in a future video.
Okay, everybody, that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed the projects. If you did, remember, give me a big thumbs up, leave me a comment, let me know which one was your favorite. And until the next time, be well, be kind, and make it a great day. Thanks so much for watching. Take good care. Bye.